Maeve lived in a world where magic was as feared as the wolves that prowled the nearby woods. Her village, nestled at the foot of a towering mountain, was a place of simple folk who clung to old superstitions and whispered tales of witches and demons. Maeve, however, had always felt a strange connection to the natural world, a sense that something more than the ordinary existed just beyond her grasp. She spent her days tending to her father's small farm, her hands rough and calloused from years of labor. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, dancing shadows across the fields, Maeve would often find herself drawn to the edge of the woods. There, she would sit and watch the creatures of the forest, feeling a sense of peace and belonging that she could find nowhere else. One evening, as she was lost in contemplation, a stranger emerged from the trees. He was a tall, lean man with piercing blue eyes and a cloak that seemed to blend seamlessly with the twilight. His name, he said, was Rowan, and he was a traveler seeking shelter from a storm. Maeve, always hospitable, invited him into her home. As they sat by the fire, Rowan began to tell stories of far-off lands and ancient magic. Maeve listened with rapt attention, her heart pounding with excitement. She had never heard of such things before, but something deep within her resonated with his words. "You have a gift, Maeve," Rowan said, his eyes fixed on her. "A gift that lies dormant, waiting to be awakened." Maeve's breath caught in her throat. She had always felt different, but she had never thought of herself as having a gift. Rowan smiled. "It is time for you to embrace your true nature," he said. "It is time for you to become the witch you were born to be." The days that followed were a whirlwind of discovery. Under Rowan's tutelage, Maeve's latent abilities grew stronger. She learned to manipulate the elements, to coax plants to grow, and even to heal the sick and injured animals that roamed the countryside. The power within her was intoxicating, and she reveled in her newfound abilities. The village whispered about her, but she paid them no mind. With Rowan by her side, she felt invincible. But their secret was not safe for long. The Inquisitor, a man with a reputation that was as feared as the plague, arrived in the village, his retinue of dark-robed enforcers spreading like a stain. His eyes searched every corner, his gaze cold and calculating. Maeve felt a shiver run down her spine as he stepped out of the shadows. His eyes met hers, and she knew he had come for Rowan. The village gathered in the town square, the air thick with tension and dread. The Inquisitor called out for the traveler, promising leniency if he surrendered willingly. Maeve watched from the shadows, her heart pounding. She knew that Rowan could not give in to such a monster. As the Inquisitor spoke, she felt a surge of power within her, a force that demanded she act. Her decision was swift. She stepped into the light, her eyes burning with determination. "Leave him be," she called out, her voice carrying across the square. The crowd gasped. The Inquisitor's gaze fell upon her, and she felt the weight of his malice. But she stood firm. "I am Maeve," she declared, "and if you wish to face a true threat, face me, for I am the Witch of the Wilds." The Inquisitor's smile was chilling. "Ah, so the prophecy was true," he murmured, his eyes lighting up with an eerie glee. "Very well. I will deal with you, girl, once I've dealt with the one who corrupted you." Rowan stepped forward, placing himself between Maeve and the Inquisitor. "You will not lay a hand on her," he warned, his own power flaring around him like a shield. "Your war is with me." The battle was fierce and unforgiving. The Inquisitor wielded dark magic that seemed to suck the very light from the air. Maeve watched in horror as her mentor fought for his life. But as the night grew darker and the villagers fled in terror, she felt something stir inside her. The magic that was her birthright surged, demanding to be used. With a cry that echoed through the night, she joined the fray. Their combined power was like nothing the village had ever seen. The ground trembled, and the skies grew wild as spells clashed. Trees bent and twisted as the Inquisitor's dark sorcery collided with the pure, natural force that flowed from Maeve's fingertips. She was no longer the girl who feared the whispers of her neighbors. She was a witch, and she would fight to protect her home and those she loved. The battle raged on, the fate of the village hanging in the balance. Maeve felt a bond with Rowan, a unity of purpose that transcended the teacher-student dynamic. Together, they pushed back the tide of darkness, their lights shining brighter than any star. The Inquisitor snarled, his power waning as the villagers slowly gathered the courage to stand with them. And as the first light of dawn kissed the horizon, the Inquisitor retreated, his power broken and his forces scattered. The villagers, though shaken, watched as Maeve and Rowan stood tall. They had protected them from the night's horrors, and in doing so, had changed their perception of magic forever. The world was bigger than Maeve had ever imagined, and the path ahead was fraught with danger. But she knew now that she had the strength to face it. With Rowan at her side, she was ready to embrace her destiny and defend the magic that was as much a part of her as the land she called home. The story of the Witch of the Wilds had only just begun. The aftermath of the battle saw the village slowly come to terms with the revelation of Maeve's powers. Some whispered in awe, while others retreated into fear, but the majority remained neutral, unsure of what the future held. The bond between Maeve and Rowan grew stronger as they worked together to heal the damage wrought by the Inquisitor's magic and to reassure the villagers that they meant them no harm. Days turned into weeks, and as the village began to recover, whispers of their victory spread like wildfire. Travelers brought news of the fearless witch and her enigmatic mentor, and soon enough, those who had been persecuted for their own magical talents started to find their way to the village. They sought refuge, hoping to learn from Maeve and Rowan, to find a place where they could live openly without fear of persecution. One such traveler was Alara, a young elf girl with a gentle spirit and a gift for healing. Her arrival brought both joy and tension, as the villagers were still wary of anyone who wielded magic. But Maeve saw in her a kindred spirit and welcomed her with open arms, eager to expand her knowledge and form a new alliance. Together, Maeve, Rowan, and Alara worked tirelessly to teach the villagers the true nature of their gifts. They demonstrated the beauty of their abilities, showing them that magic could be a tool for good, not just the weapon of darkness that the Inquisitor had painted it to be. Slowly, the village started to accept them, their fears giving way to curiosity and respect. But peace was not meant to last. The Inquisitor had not been defeated, only driven back. His spies lurked in the shadows, waiting for the moment to strike again. And as the days grew shorter and the nights colder, whispers of his vengeance grew louder. Maeve knew that they could not rest on their laurels. They had to grow stronger, to prepare for the inevitable next battle. Under Rowan's guidance, she and Alara studied ancient texts, honing their skills and learning the true extent of their powers. They trained every day, pushing their limits, knowing that the fate of the village and all those who sought refuge there rested on their shoulders. And so, the Witch of the Wilds grew in power and renown. Her name became a beacon of hope for those who believed in the goodness of magic, and a thorn in the side of those who sought to control it. The stage was set for an epic confrontation that would determine the future of their world. But it was not just the Inquisitor that Maeve had to contend with. Her own fears and doubts began to surface, born from the knowledge of her family's dark past. Was she destined to follow in their footsteps? Or could she forge a new path, one of light and harmony? The answers lay deep within her heart, and it was a journey she would have to undertake alone. Through it all, Rowan remained her rock, his belief in her unshaken. Yet, the weight of his own secrets grew heavier, hinting at a history far more complex and troubling than the simple traveler's tale he had once spun. As the shadows lengthened, Maeve knew that she would soon have to confront not just the Inquisitor, but the demons that lay dormant within herself and those she trusted. The world outside the village grew more dangerous with each passing day, as the Inquisitor's influence spread like a stain across the land. Maeve could feel the tension in the air, a gathering storm that would soon engulf them all. But she was not afraid, for she had discovered her true self, and she knew that she had the power to stand against the dark. The whispers grew to shouts, and soon the time came for Maeve and her companions to leave the safety of their haven. The Inquisitor's forces were drawing near, and the battle for the heart of the wilds was at hand. With a steely resolve, she gathered her allies and set out to face her destiny. The journey ahead was fraught with peril, but Maeve's heart was filled with determination. For she knew that it was not just her own fate that hung in the balance, but the fate of all those who believed in the power of good magic. The story of the Witch of the Wilds would not end in silence. It would be sung in the hearts of those who had been freed from fear. They ventured through the dense woods, the very earth seeming to whisper secrets to Maeve as they passed. Her connection to nature grew stronger with each step, the trees bending to allow them passage and the animals watching them with knowing eyes. The forest was alive with the whispers of ancient spells and the echoes of battles long past. As they approached the edge of the wilds, where civilization had once flourished but now lay in ruin, they encountered a band of rogue mages. These men and women had been hunted by the Inquisitor's forces and had come to the wilds seeking refuge. Their eyes lit up with hope at the sight of Maeve and her allies, for they had heard tales of a witch who fought for the freedom of all magic wielders. The mages shared stories of the Inquisitor's tyranny and the horrors they had witnessed. Maeve's resolve only grew stronger with each tale. They decided to join forces, for they knew that together they stood a better chance against the darkness that sought to engulf them. Their numbers swelled as they moved through the decayed remnants of once great cities, each new ally adding their own unique strength to the cause. The final showdown was inevitable. They could feel the dark presence of the Inquisitor drawing nearer, a palpable malice that seemed to seep into their very bones. Yet they pressed on, for each of them had their own reason to fight. For Rowan, it was to protect his charge and the future of magic. For Alara, it was to avenge her kin, who had suffered at the hands of the Inquisitor. And for Maeve, it was to break the chains of fear that had held her village and so many others captive for too long. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than they had anticipated. The Inquisitor had not been idle during their journey, and his forces lay in wait, ready to crush them underfoot. Yet, as Maeve looked upon the grim faces of her companions, she knew that they would not go quietly into the night. They had come too far and learned too much to let fear win now. With a battle cry that echoed through the ruins, they charged into the fray. The clash of magic was deafening, the air crackling with power. The Inquisitor's dark sorcery was a stark contrast to the vibrant spells that danced around Maeve and her allies. The very earth trembled under their combined might. The fight was brutal and unforgiving. Maeve felt her strength waning as she faced off against the Inquisitor, his eyes burning with malevolence. Yet, she would not falter. Her connection to the land surged within her, bolstering her resolve and her power. As the two adversaries stood toe-to-toe, their magic intertwining in a deadly dance, the truth of her lineage was revealed. The whispers grew louder, the secrets of her family's past unraveled before her eyes. Maeve realized that she was the key to breaking the Inquisitor's power, the living embodiment of a prophecy long thought forgotten. With a final, desperate push, she drew upon the very essence of the wilds. A brilliant light exploded from her, sending the Inquisitor reeling and his minions scattering. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and the taste of victory. But as the dust settled, she knew that the battle was not over. The Inquisitor had not been destroyed, merely defeated for now. He would regroup, rebuild, and come for her again. But Maeve was ready, for she had discovered the true extent of her power, and she had found a family in those who stood beside her. The Witch of the Wilds had claimed her title, and she would not rest until magic was free from the shadow of fear. Together with Rowan, Alara, and their newfound allies, they set forth to rebuild a world where all were equal, regardless of the gifts they bore. The story of the Witch of the Wilds had only just begun, and the pages were already stained with the ink of destiny. Their first act was to establish a sanctuary, a place where the persecuted could seek refuge and learn the ways of their powers. Maeve named it Sanctum of the Elements, a bastion of hope amidst the ruins. Word of their victory spread like wildfire, and soon, More mages, elves, and even the rare dwarf or two sought out the sanctuary. The whispers grew into a roar, a call to arms for those who dared to defy the Inquisitor's reign of terror. The Inquisitor, though bruised, was not so easily bested. His agents remained in the shadows, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Maeve knew they had to be vigilant, to train harder and prepare for the war that was to come. Each new dawn brought new challenges, but with each victory, the sanctuary grew stronger. The days of quiet contemplation were replaced with the clang of steel and the crackle of spells. The once secluded village had transformed into a bustling fortress, a beacon of light in a land of darkness. Maeve's powers grew alongside her responsibilities, and she found solace in the quiet moments with her friends. They shared laughter and tears, their hearts bound by the trials they had faced and the future they sought to create. But the Inquisitor was not one to be outdone. His vengeance grew with each day that Maeve's sanctuary stood, a thorn in his side that could not be ignored. His power grew, too, fed by the fear and despair of those he had conquered. Maeve could feel his malice, like a black storm cloud on the horizon, drawing closer with each passing moon. As the snows of winter began to fall, the whispers grew more frantic. The Inquisitor had amassed an army of corrupted magic users, twisted by his dark influence. They were coming, a tide of malice that threatened to wash over the sanctuary and drown it in shadow. Maeve stood atop the ramparts, her eyes scanning the horizon, her heart heavy with the weight of the lives that now depended on her. The final battle was approaching, and she knew that this time there could be no retreat. With Rowan at her side, she would face the Inquisitor and end his tyranny once and for all. The air grew colder, the winds whispering of the impending storm. The sanctuary buzzed with activity as they fortified their defenses and readied their weapons. The mood was grim, but determination burned in every heart. They were the guardians of magic now, and they would not go quietly into the night. The moment arrived with the first light of dawn, the horizon stained with the approach of the Inquisitor's forces. The air grew thick with tension, and the very earth trembled with anticipation. Maeve took a deep breath, feeling the power of the wilds surge within her. This was it, the battle that would define her legacy, the fight for the very soul of the world she had come to cherish. With a cry that seemed to split the heavens, she and her allies charged forth, their magic a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. The Inquisitor's forces clashed with theirs, a cacophony of steel and sorcery that painted the landscape in a tapestry of war. The Inquisitor himself waited, his eyes fixed on Maeve, a twisted smile playing across his lips. This was the culmination of her journey, the moment that would determine if her mother's sacrifice had been in vain. The fate of the sanctuary, her friends, and the future of magic rested upon her shoulders. But as the winds of battle swirled around her, she felt something else within her, a fierce, unyielding resolve to never again let fear dictate her destiny. The battle raged, a dance of life and death played out on the grand stage of the wilds. Maeve's magic grew stronger with each heartbeat, each spell she cast resonating with the power of the earth beneath her feet. The Inquisitor, once feared as an unstoppable force, now faced a true adversary. The prophecy was coming to pass, and the Witch of the Wilds would not be denied her destiny. Their final confrontation was one of unbridled power, a clash of wills that would be remembered for centuries to come. The Inquisitor and Maeve stood at the heart of the battlefield, their eyes locked in a silent challenge. The air was a maelstrom of light and dark, as spells collided with a ferocity that sent shockwaves rippling through the very fabric of reality. Maeve's power grew with each breath, each heartbeat echoing the rhythm of the wilds. The Inquisitor's smile faltered as he felt her might, a force unseen in the world for an age. He threw everything at her, dark curses and twisted incantations, but she remained unyielding, her own magic a shield that reflected his malice back at him. In the chaos, Rowan and Alara fought alongside the sanctuary's defenders, their abilities weaving a tapestry of protection and destruction that sent the Inquisitor's minions reeling. The rogue mages had become a formidable force under Maeve's leadership, each one driven by his own desire for freedom from fear. As the Inquisitor's strength began to wane, his desperation grew palpable. He drew upon a power so dark, so ancient, that the very air seemed to shudder with revulsion. Maeve felt the tide of the battle begin to turn, the weight of his malice threatening to crush her spirit. But she would not be swayed. She called upon the full fury of the wilds, and the land itself seemed to rise up in her defense. The ground beneath the Inquisitor cracked open, and from it erupted a torrent of pure, untamed magic. His eyes widened in horror as the earth itself turned against him, the very essence of nature that he had sought to control, now his undoing. Maeve felt the wild's power surge through her, and she directed it with a precision that belied her youth. The Inquisitor stumbled, his once imposing figure now dwarfed by the forces arrayed against him. With one last, desperate gasp, he hurled a bolt of shadow at her heart. But Maeve was ready. She reached within herself, to the core of her being, and unleashed a blast of light, so brilliant it seemed to consume the very air around her. The two spells met in a cataclysmic explosion, a meeting of darkness and light that sent shockwaves rippling outwards. The Inquisitor was thrown back, his body contorting, his screams lost in the din of battle. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, there was silence. The Inquisitor lay broken before her, his power shattered, his body a withered husk. The battlefield grew still, the air thick with the scent of ozone and the bitter taste of victory. Maeve looked down at her enemy, not with triumph, but with a solemn understanding of the price that had been paid for freedom. With his defeat, the sanctuary's survival was assured. The whispers of fear began to change to whispers of hope. The wilds themselves seemed to breathe easier, their spirits lifted by the vanquishing of the shadow that had threatened them for so long. The journey ahead was fraught with challenges and uncertainty, but Maeve had found her purpose. The Witch of the Wilds would not rest until magic was restored to its rightful place in the world, free from the chains of fear and manipulation. Together with her allies, she would forge a new order, one of balance and harmony. They would be the guardians of the wilds, the champions of the oppressed, and the living embodiment of the prophecy that had once haunted her dreams. The story of the Witch of the Wilds was no longer just a tale of survival, but one of rebirth and the unyielding spirit of those who dare to embrace their destinies. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider subscribing to stay updated with our latest stories. Give us a like if you want to see more, and drop a comment below to let us know your thoughts.